and welcome to the Big Apple School podcast, the weekly English show where we speak about everything under the sun. The major goal of this show is to help you improve your English and, of course, learn something new. My name's Katja, I'm your host, and today with me,
Benjamin
and
Natalie.
Guys, you know, we're doing our best to be as useful for you as possible, and we would like to get some feedback about it. Subscribe to our pages on Apple, Yandex, Google, Viki, or other platforms, and let us know what you think about our show. Rate and review our podcasts, give us stars, leave some comments, ask questions, and feel free to send your ideas about next episodes. It won't take much time or effort, right? But it will help us a lot to become even better. So, and now we have a very special guest. Natasha, you are here for the first time.
Yeah,
welcome.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you so
tell
much.
us something about yourself.
So actually, I'm from Novosibirsk. I was born here, and I graduated from Novosibirsk State Pedagogical University. So I've been working in different countries as well as in Russia, of course. I don't know. What else can I say?
What do you like doing? What are your interests?
I love music, obviously. Yeah, it's like one of my biggest interests, I think. I like traveling. I like learning languages. I've tried learning so many languages, really. So yeah. Okay, I think that's it.
I can also add that Natasha is a big coffee holic, just like me. So
That's so true. Yeah, definitely.
all right. So, and our topic for today is living and working in another country, because I know that all three of us have had this experience. So it will be very exciting to talk about it. So Ben, let's start with you. So can you tell us, where have you lived, worked, studied maybe?
Yeah, so I've studied in quite a few places. So at university, I did Italian and Russian at university. So during my year abroad at university, I studied in Milan in Italy, and I studied in Krasnodar in South Russia. And additionally, I worked in America for a while, which was a fun experience, which we'll talk about later. And I'm originally from London, England.
I have a question not related to working and studying and whatever in different countries, but what made you choose Russian at university?
Oh God, that's a really good question. I think I just watched way too much James Bond when I was younger, and now, and there was no one particular event which made me choose Russian. It's just such a cool language. I love how it sounds. It's just such a mysterious country. It's huge. There's so many intelligent people here, and there's so many beauties and tragedies. It's an amazing place. I'm just fascinated by Russia.
I love asking this question to everyone who studies Russian, because everyone has their own reasons. So it's fascinating to know about them. All right. So Natasha, what about you? Where have you worked, lived, studied?
So I've lived in Indonesia for a little bit. Then it was Thailand, China, France, and Scotland.
Can you
That's
tell us about how long was that? Because a little bit is, a little bit vague.
Sure. So Indonesia was around 3 months. Thailand was for around a year. Scotland was for about 6 months. And France was just 1 month.
Just one.
Was it
and
Bali
China,
in
actually.
Indonesia? Was it Bali?
No, it wasn't. No, it's too mainstream,
Yeah.
So yeah.
You're like, of course I could go there, but
Yeah,
too
that's
mainstream.
True.
Too
Yeah,
mainstream.
kind of. No, I mean, it was a small city. I mean, just 1 million of population. So it was called Padang. It was in West Sumatra. So yeah,
Cool.
it was pretty nice, actually. Yeah.
I've never heard of it. That's fascinating.
Yeah. So, and there aren't a lot of, like, I would say, people with white skin. Yeah. So, and I was treated like a star, all the time. Seriously.
Did you enjoy it?
I don't know. Sometimes, maybe.
I'll admit it. You enjoyed it.
Okay, fine.
All right. And Ben, what were the time frames? So how long have you spent in Italy and in...
So Italy, I spent around 6 months there. I studied and taught English there. So
Oh, you
it was-
taught English there
Yeah,
as
it was
well.
more on the side. It was not a full-time thing, but I did Italian at university, as I mentioned, and I did an art course there. So part of my degree, I had to go to Italy to study something as long as it was in Italian. And on the side, I did some tutoring in English. So yeah, I did tutoring for fellow 18-year-olds when I was 18 at the same time. So 6 months there, and I spent 5 months in Krasnodar.
So what made you come there? I mean, was it an exchange student program, or you decided just to go travel, to go explore?
So it was kind of like an exchange student program. So as part of my degree in the UK, so I went to the University of Bristol, and as part of the 4-year language degree, you have to spend the 3rd year in the countries of which you have the target language. And yeah, so I spent 5 months in Krasnodar learning at Kuban State University. So that was a hilarious experience. I loved it. It was
hilarious.
Amazing.
Ooh, I'm intrigued.
So spent some time living in a dormitory. So общежитие.
I can imagine.
So-
Oh, I can't wait to talk about it in more detail, because we have a separate question about accommodation. Oh, guys, wait for it. So, and then you worked somewhere. You worked in the US.
Yeah, I worked in Vegas for a couple of years, and that was a fun experience to say the least.
What made you choose Vegas out of all places in the US? So, no, first, I'm sorry for, interrupting myself all the time. But first, why the US? And second, why Vegas?
All right, so I have a brother who lives in Los Angeles. So I'm originally from London, but my mum is American. So I'm really lucky I get to go to the States. And my brother lives in Los Angeles. And I visited him once, and I was still figuring out, what career should I do? And I visited him, and I just fell in love with with the whole area, and it was so much fun. He took me for a long drive to Joshua Tree, which is this great national park, and I just loved driving on the highway out there. It was so fun. And
So that's why you love the area, because you can drive.
yeah, you can drive, and the scenery is epic. It's absolutely amazing. So I just caught the bug and had to go out there.
That's fantastic. Because I'm not a driver, so I cannot drive. So for me, going to LA would be impossible. Well, I mean, I could go there, but I wouldn't be able to, get around from places to places. So that was a big problem for me.
Well, maybe I could ask you, because you have family from Yakutsk. Do they drive in Yakutsk, and how do they start the car in such cold weather there?
Oh, remind me to send you some pictures after the podcast, because you know how in Siberia, for example, there are special blankets you put on the engine.
Yeah.
So it's like inside the car. So in there, you have special blankets that are custom made to cover the whole car.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So,
That's hilarious.
That's
It's
amazing.
like a fur coat for the car. And then almost every single car has the system installed. So it automatically starts when it's minus 18 or minus 20, minus 25. You set it.
Yep.
So that it does not freeze overnight. And then also a lot of people have garages, which are pretty warm. So yeah, surprisingly, but...
Because I once saw a video of someone making a fire under their car to start the car because it was so cold.
Oh my God.
I would not recommend doing that. Definitely not.
Not the
But
best
yeah,
idea,
people
probably.
drive, and I honestly admire people who do that, because when it's minus 45 and lower, the visibility, because of the fog, is around 10 meters. So it's very difficult to see where you're going. So it's basically like milk is outside. In the air, you see nothing.
Yeah. When you were in Indonesia, did you ever drive on motorbikes?
Actually, I'm just like Kate. I don't drive.
Yeah.
But it's a
tried to.
motorbike.
Or did you ride on a motorbike?
Oh
or
yeah,
go
I did
on-
actually. I don't have a license
Yeah.
actually, so it was kind of illegal. But I tried to,
Yeah.
and it's exciting. It's like totally amazing. So
Awesome.
you feel, this freedom when you ride a motorbike. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, same thing.
And
yeah.
it's like there is this wind around you, and you just go in. You feel this freedom. This, I don't know, like how to explain it. You should just feel it. It's
So
amazing.
you told us what places you have lived in, but what made you go there? How did you end up there?
So I think the first, it was France, but France was because I was learning French at the university, and that's why I went to France. But my actual first kind of like travel was to Indonesia, and I decided to go there because, it's so exotic, it's completely different from Russia, and I think it's totally amazing. All the nature and the people are different. And also it's an Islamic country, so that I'm going to speak about it later a little bit. So yeah, and actually first I wanted to come to India, but all my relatives, all my friends were against that because it's kind of dangerous still for a girl, especially if you
Yeah.
go alone there, so it might be not really safe. So I decided to go to Indonesia because safety is a little bit better there. So yeah, I decided to go there. Yeah, it was amazing, totally.
What about Thailand? Was that because did you say you went to Thailand? Yeah. So how was that for a lady going to Thailand?
Thailand is much safer actually than India or any other country, I think.
And what part of Thailand was it?
So it was Hat Yai. So it's south of Thailand and it's right on the border with Malaysia. And it's, that's it. So it's pretty amazing again, like I could say. So yeah, and it was also stationed there. So yeah.
So you were teaching in all these countries?
Yeah, except for France and Scotland, obviously.
How did you end up in Scotland and what were you doing there?
I just went there for holiday, but then I had to stay there for half a year because of the coronavirus, because of this kind of pandemic. So yeah, it was just a necessity, I would say, but not such a bad occasion.
Yeah, let's be fair. It's better to, be stuck in Scotland or somewhere else rather than, in Yakutia, for example.
Maybe, especially in winter.
Well, Yakutia is cool. I mean, personally, I would love to check out Yakutia,
That's
but
true.
I guess
Me too.
it's not everyone's holiday destination.
Must be beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it is beautiful. You have a lot of ice sculptures and everything, but very cold.
So ice is the whole year there. I mean,
the snow melts by the end of April, the mid of April, the end of April. It depends on the year. And then the snowfall starts falling in October.
So it's pretty much the same as in Novosibirsk.
The only difference is that in there is continuous permafrost, which means that under the ground it's ice. So from 400 meters to 1 kilometer in different areas of Yakutia. So that's why there will never be a subway, ever.
Yeah, I heard about this as well, yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Compared to you guys, I'm so boring because I have only lived and worked in the US. So only one country, only one state, Massachusetts, for 2.5 years on and off. So I spent an academic year there, 3 months in Russia, another academic year there, 7 months in Russia, and then another 3 months there. And now I'm stuck in Mother Russia for God knows how long. Not complaining, but, would love to have some certainty in life.
Yeah, I know.
So, and let's talk a little bit about working. So we'll discuss a whole lot of things, but let's talk about working. So how is it different working in these countries from working in your country? Well, for Natasha and I, it's Russia. For Ben, it's England. And let's start with the difficulties and differences. So what can you think of?
So, can I start? Yeah.
Please
okay.
do.
So, I think in China and Indonesia, as well as in Thailand, probably. So, I was always feeling like, a bit of an outlander, probably, because there are huge cultural differences. And so you can't actually just, emerge in there. So it's like you feel a little bit like outside of the usual of all the other people. Yeah, so you can't easily talk to them because most of them don't really speak English well. So, and that's kind of makes you a little bit stressed, I would say. And the worst here was China, I think, because people just don't speak English there. So if you meet a person who actually speaks good English or any English, you're lucky. So, and at work, it was the same, I think. So not so many people spoke English. So even English teachers who were supposed to speak good English and teach English, they could never really understand me. So, and when I was like speaking to them, I was, for example, asking about my schedule or something like that. They were just looking at me scared and confused.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. How did you handle this? How did you go through this?
There were some people who actually could speak English a little bit. So, and I managed to just communicate with them again using gestures, miming, smiling, and so on.
Do you speak any Chinese?
Just a little bit. So I practiced a little bit. I learned Chinese for, I don't know, like a year or something like that, but that's not enough. Like, so you have to, I don't know, learn it for 6 to 7 years to actually speak it. And of course, when I went to the supermarket, for example, in China, I could ask, for example, where is the water or where can I buy something? So how much it is? Yeah. For example, how much is this? I don't know. Someone, okay. So, and they would understand me, but of course it's not enough for communicating with people.
Did you ever come across someone someone in China who only spoke Russian instead of English?
Actually, yeah. Like I went to Shanghai, remember, in the hotel. So a guy just talked to me in Russian because he heard me. He heard that I was from Russia, yeah. And he just talked Russian to me. And I was like, oh my God, that's completely, like you're in the middle of China and the person just speaks Russian to you. Pretty good Russian, actually.
That's
It must
pretty
have
cool.
felt amazing.
Yeah. So, and I found out he was like studying in Baku.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he had to learn Russian as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and that was fun experience, actually.
Cool.
Yeah.
I have another question to Natasha, actually. Although all three of us have taught in different countries, so have you noticed any difference in actually teaching? So the difference in how students behave, maybe?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, I mean, both in Russia and in other countries, I usually speak only English during the classes. And I think, so there wasn't like a lot of difference, like in terms of actually teaching, the teaching process. But what surprised me in Thailand was the respect and the politeness that the students had to the teacher. So they were, always bowing to me anywhere they met me, like slightly. And it was a bit confusing at first, but then it was like also nice. I don't know. Yeah. So yeah, this is, I think, the most, like, the biggest difference.
Yeah,
Yes, in
because
Russia it's
Eastern
not as
culture is much more regimented. It's much more
Exactly.
structured.
Exactly. And the teacher is always like a figure that you have to
Yeah.
respect.
Yeah. Would you say in Russia it's kind of like a semi-mix between European and Asian?
I
Because
think,
it's
think
quite
so.
regimented here, at least from what I've seen. Education's very structured here.
Yeah, I would say it is a mix. What surprised me when I started teaching at university is that, well, to me, it seems that students in the US are more hardworking because they know the value of education. Well, also they pay a hell of a lot of money for that.
That's
So,
right, of course.
Yeah.
they have no choice but to. And in there, since, you have the GPA. So, and if you don't work hard enough, your GPA is low enough. So then your future potential employer will ask you questions. Why is your GPA like that? Didn't you study well? Why? So they want to be successful. So they know that, it demands hard work. Whereas in Russia, I see this attitude, which is, I'll go through this
That's,
somehow. I
that
learn
reminds me-
everything the
sorry.
night before the exam, for example.
Yeah. That reminds me of China again, because like people actually compete a lot there. So from young age, from like, I don't know, the age of 2 or 3 years old. So parents try to give the best to their kids, to like educate them the best way, just to, I don't know, for example, I had students who were like 3 years old or even less.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's because they actually try to educate their kids the best way they ever could.
So
Yeah,
were
like
you
there'll be a
teaching?
violinist and then they will, sorry to interrupt.
No,
Yes,
that's
sorry.
fine.
So there'll be like a violinist and then they will
Exactly.
know
Yeah.
some literature
Yeah.
or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and they always feel this pressure, especially older kids, because again, they have a lot of exams, they have like this competing all the time, and it's,
Yeah.
again, that's really stressful. I can't imagine.
So were you
It feels
teaching, little kids?
I was teaching all the ages actually, but small kids as well. Yeah,
How-
not my favorite part, seriously.
Oh, really? How old were they?
So some of them were like, the youngest was 2.5 years old.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's like
Can-
a baby.
Can
literally.
children speak at this age at all?
They
I'm sorry,
can.
I have no experience
Yeah.
with babies. So I'm like,
yeah.
what age is it?
So they can, repeat after the teacher. You can form their pronunciation a little bit, but sometimes it doesn't make sense because they don't speak Chinese almost at all, and parents try to teach them some English. So it's kind of
Yeah. It's
kind of
confusing. It's confusing.
exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
I think I'm right in saying that in Scandinavia, they start introducing kids to education at a later age because they don't see the point in teaching little kids information that they're going to forget anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
I think this is how parents act when they want to have bilingual children. But
Yeah,
also, it's a
exactly.
little bit difficult to have in China, I guess, because English is not spoken everywhere. If we compare it to Scandinavia, for example, where English is on TV, it's everywhere. So, wow, 2.5. Oh my God, that's such a little
I mean,
baby.
yeah, it's mostly for, just a little bit also to show off, because they can say, oh, my kid, for example, is learning English. So here she can actually speak English, which is fine. Of course, they can't speak English at all, but still. So, and parents are ready to give any money, to put any effort in that. Just, yeah. So, yeah.
Okay, and what about difficulties?
I think, I don't know, actually. Again, probably that in terms of, when you work in China, so they really demand a lot from you. So they, because, again, they have to pay a lot of money for, to take you to China, to, make all these documents. So they spend a lot of money on that.
So, and they want you to pay off.
Exactly.
Ben, what about you? Have you faced any difficulties working?
Let me just think. Well, I mean, I've worked most of my life in the UK and mostly in the US too. I'd say in the UK, you have, generally speaking, like 1 month holiday. So 4 weeks, maybe 3 weeks holiday a year. In the States, you're lucky to get a week. It's insane how much you work there. Yeah, when I went to Vegas, I worked in a hotel on the Las Vegas Strip, which is the big road in the middle of Las Vegas. And yeah, you can work a lot of hours there. The work culture in America is very, very heavy. I mean, maybe it is kind of similar to, well, not similar, but comparable to China, where like people work in factories sometimes for up to like 16-hour days.
Horrible.
That's true.
Yeah, which is insane. But in the US, people work very hard too. In the UK, it's a little bit more relaxed. I mean, people still work hard, but it's more relaxed. Whereas in Scandinavia and in maybe Germany, I think there's a much more relaxed work culture. Also in the States, you have to also think about your health insurance, and you have to think about all these other things.
Yes.
So there's a lot to think about in America. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love America. It's such a fun place, and yeah, it really is a pleasure living out there. But at the same time, it can be a huge headache, as you've probably experienced yourself.
I was going to ask you about taxes, because when you start working, inevitably you have to deal with taxes. So, and for me, this was one of the biggest difficulties, well, still is, which is dealing with taxes, because in there you have to file them, yourself on your own. There's no one to help you. Well, unless you actually go to a lawyer and pay somebody to deal with it, which I didn't, because, still too expensive. So, and that was so hard to get through this bureaucracy. Compared to that, health insurance was, nothing. It was so easy. But yeah, the taxes system was the most difficult moment for me.
Yeah, it's so disjointed in America, how you have the state taxes, the federal taxes, and the local taxes too. There's just so much to contemplate. In the UK, you have council tax, and then you have just general income tax. So I guess it's divided too in the UK, but in the US, it's just more of a headache from my experience.
I feel that it's also, more of a headache when you are a foreigner. So you have not been familiar with the system, through your life, but you've just come here and now you have to deal with it on your own.
Yeah.
I have also noticed one thing that I missed when I was in the US compared to Russia. So in Russia, when you teach at a school, you have some kind of a common place where all teachers can gather. You can have a chat. So you just have a friendly talk, get distracted
Like a staff room, yeah.
Yeah, but in the US, well, I was co-teaching and I was an assistant at universities. And in there, I have noticed that there was never a staff room. So each professor has their own office. So, and they're there. So if you want to talk to someone, you have to go to their office.
Yeah.
Hope that they have time or energy or wish to speak to you. And usually no one does. So usually they're at the office during their office hours, which are for the students, which means that you are kind of alone in there. So you don't have,
Yeah.
you can only chat to your colleagues during some events maybe. But that's it. And I miss this, communication.
Yeah, the camaraderie and the I mean, when I was working in Vegas, luckily we had this huge staff room and this huge staff canteen, and it was really cool because at the hotel I was working at, they gave you unlimited food. So at lunchtime I would literally go crazy on the burgers and, and everything else. But yeah, that was a cool part of working there. So at least they had a staff room there. But I think maybe you're referring to like educational institutions, perhaps it's much more divided, I guess. Yeah, divided whereby there's no staff room, there's no common area.
Well, that's funny because, every country where I've worked, there was always a staff room. Maybe because, again, it was
You
in
were so
Asia.
lucky.
Yeah, because in Asia, again, they like gathering together, like talking, they like communicating all the time, having meals together. It's like one of the, I don't know, the most important things that they really
That sounds
like.
amazing. That's what I miss.
Yeah.
That's what I miss,
Yeah.
really. All right. And what about accommodation?
Oh,
So where did you live when you were in these countries? How did you find this accommodation?
Actually, I was lucky here, so because all the countries actually where I came, so accommodation was prearranged. So yeah,
So you didn't have to,
yeah, I didn't have to actually look for it or just.
and then be scared that you wouldn't be,
yeah, I know. Yeah,
the same set
Yeah.
in real life as in the
just
pictures.
once I was looking for an apartment once. It was in Thailand, and I just want to improve living conditions. So I just looked around. I walked around the city and I saw several condos. So I just walked in and I asked if they have any, I don't know, flats to rent. So that's it.
So when
Yeah.
were you able to rent a flat?
I was.
So what do you have to provide when you're renting an apartment?
So passport, and sometimes they ask for some, insurance. Yeah, medical insurance also. And that's it, I think.
Well, so they asked for medical insurance, in case you trip and fall in the
Probably,
apartment and
yeah.
sue the landlord or something?
I don't know, really. Yeah, probably for that.
That's funny.
Oh, yeah. Also, they asked for a working contract. Yeah. So that
Yeah.
I'm not going to go away any moment. Yeah, that I'm actually
So in general, you can say that it wasn't that much of a pain in the neck to.
for me, not.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
luckily.
fantastic. Ben, what about you? Where did you live in all
So
these
when
places?
when I was at university, it was pretty easy finding the accommodation there. So when I went to Krasnodar, as I think I mentioned previously, I stayed in a общежитие, which is a dormitory.
Can you tell us
And
more about that? What
was
did
so
it feel?
funny. Oh God, I loved it. I loved it, and there was some horrible bits to it as well. So, my favorite bit was when they shut off the hot water in the summer, as is a normal thing here in Russia, I think.
Yes.
So you have 2 weeks whereby there's no hot water at all. So we all just shared this we didn't have a proper shower. We had this hose in a room. And so we just have to use this hose. And the kitchen was an absolute mess. Oh God, it was
God.
so horrible. There was cockroaches everywhere.
God.
And it was just... It was apparently we had the nicest kitchen. So the dormitory we were in had, I think, 15 floors, and apparently our kitchen was the best kitchen.
Well, in dormitories, they set the bar very low, very low
Yeah.
for this.
Yeah, and it was quite funny because they banned any alcoholic drinks inside the building, and
As if that ever stopped anyone.
Yeah, and-
But go on.
and at the entrance you'd have 2 ohraniki, so the security guards, and you'd always have to sneak in any beer bottles or anything inside.
Yeah, if you
and-
don't want them to be
Yeah.
confiscated.
Exactly, and they took their job very seriously.
Oh,
So
whoa.
it was fun. A few times I had beer confiscated.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. During my second year in the US, I was living in the dorm, and it was a lovely place. So
Yeah.
it was mostly singles, then some doubles, and very rarely there was a tribal room. And I loved how everyone was complaining. They said, on our floor, there are 2 bathrooms, one big, one small. So my part of the dorm had, of the floor actually, had a little bathroom, which means 2 shower stalls, 2 toilets, and people were complaining. I'm like, okay, look, let me tell you what a dorm is like in Russia at the university where I studied. So compared to that, this is a luxurious place.
Yeah.
So, you know, when
Yeah, I
you
can
have
imagine, yeah.
20 shower stalls, you know, 10 in, you know, facing each other, but with no curtains, no doors. And you're like, love it.
Oh my God.
Amazing. So you like, so if you feel, well, you always feel uncomfortable in these conditions, I feel. So,
I
yeah.
know.
What is it like? Is Russian university culture wild? Because like in America, well, not definitely in England, it's absolutely wild. People,
I wouldn't say
it's
so.
absolutely insane. Like
You know how I see in movies how people party? Well, I used to see that in movies, and then I started teaching at an American university where every time there was a party at our college, people from MIT were also allowed to come. So every time the students had bets, how many times the ambulance is going to come for somebody who's a first year and doesn't know how to drink. In Russia, I have never seen such wild parties.
Yeah, because I didn't get that. I didn't see that when I was living in the общежитие. Everyone was a very good student. Everyone was, I mean, of course, people had like small little parties and gatherings.
Yeah,
but
so it's like you and your friends, 4, 5, 6 people, but it's
Yeah.
never
but not more.
wild.
yeah.
Never anything
And
like that.
yeah, people in Russia appreciate, well, from what I saw at least, it looks like they appreciate the education they have and they go there to study. Whereas in England, the first year, it's called Freshers' Year. And I think it's the same in America too. And it's just a
Freshman year.
mess. It's just an absolute mess. And
Well, because in there, the first years, they're 17, 18. They've always lived with their parents, and then
yeah,
they're going
Yeah.
away.
They
They
so
feel
get
the
their freedom.
freedom.
they
Yeah.
feel the
Yeah.
freedom, so they start drinking. But the thing is that they don't know how to.
Yeah.
And I remember we
Yeah.
talked about this with Mike and Ken in our podcast with alcohol. I told them how
Yeah.
first years do not know how to, and then they just take into hospitals.
gosh.
They miss the classes because of that, because they don't know to. No, I don't think it is like that in Russia. I feel like it's relatively calm. We're
Yeah.
not
I
that
think so,
crazy.
yeah. People can
Especially
go-
first year.
yeah.
I
I
feel
can
like
go to clubs, like drink there, but not as much. Like,
I think we have the opposite thing, which is first year students are always the most hardworking
Yeah.
ones.
That's
Because this is
true,
their
yeah.
first year. They need to have good reputation among the professors. They need to prove that, they're worth it. And then the further it is in the,
that's so true.
and in your fifth year, you're like, now I
cares?
can have a party.
Yeah, that's
Everybody knows me
frustrating,
here. Yeah.
because in England, your last year, you're just studying. You just want to get that good grade, and you have
Yeah,
a lot.
it's-
Yeah,
It's exactly the
it's,
opposite.
it's
Yes.
hilarious.
Yeah,
Oh my God, that's so
true.
interesting. So interesting. So, Ben, what about the US? I actually had a question about Vegas because when I was there, I had a feeling that wherever you look is hotel.
Yeah.
So, what about your accommodation? So, where did you live? How did
So
you find the place?
I lived not too far from the Strip, the big road in the middle of Las Vegas. And it was mostly a residential area, but it was 2 miles away from the Strip. So Vegas itself is actually it's a pretty nice town. It just gets so hot in the summer. It gets
I bet.
filthy hot, like 45 degrees Celsius sometimes. It's so hot. But I found an apartment 2 miles away from work. So what's that, like 3.5 kilometers, something like that. So sometimes I rode my bike to work. But it was a little bit of a struggle at first because even though my mum's American and I am technically an American citizen, I never really lived in America and I wasn't used to how things went about. And I did not have a credit history. So to get
That's what I wanted to talk about. Yeah.
Exactly. So to get a apartment, you had to have a credit history, and of course I didn't have one. So I had to, like ask old employers for references to an apartment, and I had to sleep out of a car for a few days as I was getting an apartment sorted out. But it was a fun experience because I was driving around, enjoying it. It wasn't too bad, but yeah. Sleeping in the car was quite a funny experience.
This is what annoys me so much. So the thing is that, and I have noticed that too, to be able to rent an apartment, you need to prove that you have a good credit score.
Yeah.
But for example, I have been in the US for 2.5 years. I have my debit card, but I've never had a credit card
Yeah.
in my entire life. So, and the thing is that in this case, I can't rent an apartment. So, and if I try to explain that, look, I don't need a credit card because what if I can handle my money?
Yeah.
I can save. I don't need a credit card. No, that's never a good explanation. So it's never good enough. So they think,
Yeah, that's true.
is that true that you handle your money that well? What if you're hiding something? How
Yeah.
it's so some people, I know that some people, in order to get some credit score, they use their credit card instead of using the debit card, and then at the end of the week they just kind of reimburse.
Yeah, that's what I did. Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
did because
On the
I'd never,
way,
like
yeah.
yourself, I never had a credit card before, and I was so nervous when I first
Mm-hmm.
had this credit card because I thought, what if I miss like a little bit of information in the terms
Mm-hmm.
and conditions, but
And the thing is that sometimes it can be, a slippery slope. You think, okay, I'm just gonna use my credit card, but then the debt becomes, like bigger and bigger and
Yeah.
bigger.
yeah,
So-
snowballs out.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so you need a credit history in America or else you're in trouble. So a
Mm-hmm.
good credit score in America is something like 740,
So-
730. So you're okay. You'll be able to rent an apartment fairly easily if you have that kind of a credit score. But it takes like at least a year to get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have a
Just
credit
so-
score and you're moving to America, just get some references.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Of
This
like,
is what I'm a little bit afraid of. I mean, I don't have, just like with you, Natasha, I didn't have a problem because my accommodation was pre-arranged.
yeah,
So the first year I was renting a room, but my supervisor was the one who had worked with the landlord for,
Yeah.
6 years before I came there. So there was not a problem. Well, with the renting, there were a hell of a lot of problems with the house itself. But and then the next year I was living in the dorm, and the year after I was living in what is this? Faculty housing, I
Yeah.
think. So there's a whole house for people who have come from different countries or different states. So again, I didn't have to worry about that. But I know that at some point I might want to stay in the country and find an apartment, and that's when it's going to be difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to start working towards that credit score, I guess.
Well, there's another thing. I mean, maybe you've had a different experience, but I've heard that I've seen it's slightly easier for women to find apartments because there's a lot of listings online for women only.
Really?
Yeah.
why? Is
Why?
it
So I mean, 'cause I guess I don't know. A lot of landlords think men are pigs or something. I don't know. But from what I've seen in my experience in Italy and in the States, is that there's a lot of adverts for female only, room to rent only for women.
Interesting.
You never see
interesting,
only
actually, yeah.
men. I mean, very rarely do you see that.
I wonder why
Yeah.
it is like that.
Yeah.
Maybe because the women actually let in these apartments and it's more
Yeah.
convenient for them.
It's probably
I don't
that.
know.
Yeah, they don't want to live with some strange guy who they meet on the internet or something.
So, and what about public services? So, police, hospitals, post offices. Have you had any experience with those? And if so, what was it like?
I mean, yeah, of course, I've had such experience in all of the countries, actually, except for Scotland, probably. And
With police and hospitals?
no. I mean,
Did you get
hospitals.
arrested at the pub?
No, I haven't had such experience, of course. Yeah, I mean, I was speaking about hospitals. Yeah, so yeah, and in Indonesia, in Thailand, and yeah, where else? In China as well. Actually, yeah, I had to go to hospitals for different reasons, and they were pretty fine. Of course, it's like in Russia. If you go to the public hospital, so it's gonna be a little bit messier. It's gonna be a little bit dirtier, even. Yeah, but the service is pretty good. What surprised me actually was that doctors in hospitals in Thailand were actually able to speak English, pretty good English. So I'm not sure if like in Russia many doctors in public hospitals can speak English.
No.
So yeah, probably
Judging
not.
by the experience when we had a Fulbrighter here and he needed some help with the documents to be able to run in the marathon, they don't.
Yeah.
So, which is a problem. But wait, so is there free healthcare then in China and in Thailand and Indonesia? Or did you
there
have some
is-
kind of a...
There is, but not for me because
So, but
I'm
you
not
had
like
a health
citizen.
insurance?
Yeah, of course I had. Yeah,
So-
but I still had to pay for it.
So,
They-
but was it so for example, because I know that in the US, when health insurance covers something, you still need to pay some kind of what is it,
A
copay?
deductible, copay or
Oh
deductibles.
yeah, I heard about this.
So you had-
no, nothing like that. So insurance can cover all of it, or again, if you go to the like private hospital, sometimes you just have to pay on your own, by yourself. Yeah.
So the whole thing then.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's
So-
interesting. So it's only working for the
Exactly. Yeah. So there was like a situation. So I was bitten by a cat, and I decided that. So it's kind of dangerous. It was in Thailand.
Yeah.
Was it a
So-
street cat?
Yeah, exactly.
okay.
That's a problem. So, and I had to get the rabies injections. And in Russia, again, if you go to a hospital, it's free, of course,
Yeah.
for citizens, especially. So, but there you had to pay quite a lot of money. I mean, like not a lot, but still. So, and there were like 5 injections. So, yeah. And it was interesting experience, actually, I would say.
Yeah. I wish you didn't have this
Yeah.
interesting experience, but yeah.
At least I have something to speak about. Yeah, that's good.
Then any experience? with-
Hospitals, I'm just trying to think. I mean, I've been pretty healthy, generally speaking. Hospital, I once went on a holiday to Croatia and didn't feel very good and had to pay. I mean, yeah, obviously you have to pay money out there. So I got a chest infection and which was pretty horrible. And at the time I was a smoker, which is a silly thing to do. Don't smoke, people. And had to pay. It wasn't that much, but it was about £30 worth. So what's £30? I mean, £30 back then would have been much less in ruble equivalent, but now.
Oh, I have a story about hospitals.
Yeah, go on, tell me.
So the thing is that once, all right. So one thing you guys need to know about the US system. If you're ever in the US, you feel horrible, there's something going on, but it's not, a car crash or something like that. Never call an ambulance ever in your life. That's what I told my friends, who were with me. I'm like, never call an ambulance. You better Uber my ass to the hospital and take me there, but never call an ambulance because the bill after that can be up to $5,000 just for the wee car to take you there. So
Why
no,
is it so expensive? Like,
because it's the US. I guess this is the only explanation. I honestly do not know. And the thing is that it can be covered by the insurance, but you never know which company runs the ambulance, that comes to take you.
Yeah.
So, and once my friends had to take me to the ER, to the emergency room, because I had a fear that I had a dislocation, a jaw dislocation.
What happened to your jaw?
how?
That's another story that I'd rather not tell, but sure. But the thing is that, okay, so this feeling when you're eating something, especially when it's something like a burger, so and you have to open your mouth really wide and it can, with some people, it can click and you can't really close it. So, and I had this horrible pain. I was crying. I could not really close my mouth. So it was like click.
So you just had an open mouth or?
Well, basically at some point I was able to close it and open it, but it was horrible pain. So I thought, what if I dislocated it? Things happen. So my friends took me to the ER. They got my information. They I had an x-ray. They gave me something like Tylenol and a bill for $1,000.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
Oh, God.
never in my life had I had a Tylenol that expensive. But the thing is that what was interesting for me is that at some point the nurse and the doctor, they asked my friends out. So, and then they asked me, was there any violence involved? Should we call the police? I'm like, no, that's okay. There was no violence. Everything's fine. They're like, are you sure about this? I said, yes, absolutely. 2 days later, I got a call from the hospital and I picked up the phone. They said, Katerina, hello, this is Massachusetts General Hospital. We are calling to ask about your condition. I said, thank you. It's very nice. I'm okay. Do you still stick and stand by what you said, that there was no violence? Do you want us to call the police? And I said, no, no, it's fine. So, and that was something surprising for me because in Russia, even if you want to file, a report for domestic violence, you'll never be able to do that.
Well, that's
But in
really
there,
nice, actually. Wow.
and the thing is that one visit, the consequences, I would say, lasted for half a year when I had a bill. The next bill was for $1,100. And I said, excuse you, So I had to call the hospital. By the time I did that, I had another bill for $1,200 this time. So I had to call them and say, hey, I have an insurance, which is pretty good insurance. They said, oh, but we can't find your information. I'm like, oh, how unfortunate for you. So here it is again. So I had to send it to them again and again. By the time they actually got the information, my bill was $1,500. But since I had the insurance company covered all of it. So I only had to pay the copay, which was $50 for the visit to the ER. It's, well, a necessary payment when you go to the ER. But yeah.
That's insane.
My only visit to hospital to the ER, but yeah.
Actually, I got a little something. My brother, he lives in Los Angeles, and he's like myself. He was brought up in the UK, and he was in Los Angeles, and he played football every weekend, or soccer as they call it in America. But he played football every weekend, and he injured his knee somehow. Oh. He went not to the ER, but just to a general practitioner, just to a normal doctor, and yeah, he thought it wouldn't cost much. He thought it would just be like $50 or something like that, just to check the knee, to use the little, what is it called? The hammer? The little hammer, whatever the instrument's called. You got a bill for $800.
Welcome to the United States.
Yeah.
You better not get sick over there. That's true.
Yeah.
So, have you had any other interesting stories, situations with any of the services? Because if not, I can tell you a story how I called 911 twice.
Oh yeah.
Tell us.
We like 911 stories.
Well, to our listeners, if you want to listen to the first one in detail, listen to the podcast about domestic difficulties, because there was a problem with the pipes. The second one was actually not this spring, but spring 2020. So when the quarantine, started, at some point I smelled gas.
Yeah.
So, and that sometimes happens when you have a gas stove and you cook. So after that, I used to, just open my windows and that was fine. So I did the same thing. I opened my windows. I went to sleep. 4 hours later, I woke up. It was 6 a.m. or 5 or 6 a.m. and the smell of gas was still there. And I realized that I was feeling sick. So I was very nauseous. So I decided that was not a good sign. I went outside and I live in a 12 apartment house. So there was no smell of gas in most of my apartment. There was no smell of gas outside in the corridor or something. So I went outside, I called 911 because I didn't know who else to call at 6 a.m. or what services I need. And I said, hi. And I love that they were very polite and very calm. So, they asked me, what's your emergency? And I said, I don't know who else to call, but there is a very strong smell of gas in my apartment.
Yep.
So they said, don't worry, just give us your address. The fire department will be there shortly. 5 minutes later, I had 2 fire trucks outside the house and they came in and they said, you're absolutely right. There was a gas leak. Whoa. So, but since it's an old house, the gas control or something was not in the apartment, but somewhere in the basement, and they didn't know where.
Yeah.
So they had to call the university services, ask somebody from there to come to the house, switch it off, deal with it. What surprised me is that all that took 40 minutes. 40 minutes later, they were gone. Everything was okay.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, so I had very good experience with 911. So
and they didn't charge you?
No, because it's
a public thing,
of course.
Yeah. I had a few crazy stories in America. So when I was living in Vegas, right next to my apartment, I lived next to this flood channel. Do you know what a flood channel is? Mm-hmm. All right, so inside the flood channel, there's a network of tunnels, and a lot of homeless people live in these tunnels. Oh. And one morning, I was just sitting in my apartment, and I just saw all this smoke coming out of the flood channel.
Get out.
And then I just saw so I saw the smoke coming out of where the local homeless people live. And I just called the fire brigade because I thought, God, there's probably someone like burning in there or something. And the fire brigade came and they just looked at me and they said, this happens all the time. Like, you didn't need to call us. And I said, the smoke was it was the biggest. It wasn't like a little barbecue smoke. It was huge. It was like a huge smoke cloud. And maybe some people could have been dying in there. And they said, yeah, they always make fires down there. That's just what they do.
Oh my goodness. I would freak out.
Of course. Yeah.
There's
I
a lot of
definitely
homeless
would.
people in Vegas. It's sad, but yeah. If you live in Vegas and Los Angeles, you're going to encounter a lot of crazy people everywhere.
Same with San Francisco. I
Yeah.
remember I was shocked by the amount of homeless people. And at some point I was walking down one street, saw things I wish I could unsee, of course. But in some small street, really, I counted 22 people, just, homeless people
Yeah.
on the
The
ground.
same as
it
Scotland,
was
actually. Yeah, I was surprised by how many people-
Scotland.
Exactly. I was
You wouldn't
surprised.
expect because the climate
Yeah.
is not that,
Exactly. But
Yeah.
they just, have a lot of clothes on them and
Oh
they
my
just sit
goodness.
there like asking for money. In
Oh
Thailand,
my.
on the other hand, there weren't like any. There was one beggar actually. He lived just next to my apartment and he was just always there, like sleeping, relaxing.
So
But
you're going by like, hello there.
something like that.
How's your
actually,
day?
yeah. So yeah, and he was like, like a usual person there, I could say. So he was always there and people kind of, got used to him and it was fine. But
Wow.
just one.
Yeah.
I just saw one person for like the entire year there. But in Scotland, like every corner there is a beggar. So
Yeah,
and it was
wow.
like really surprising.
I would not expect that.
Shocking,
I
yeah.
wouldn't.
Oh, I've got another little quick story. So I was
please.
sitting in my apartment in Vegas once it was before work, and I heard this water flowing from somewhere, and I thought, oh God.
Never
is
a
there-
good sign.
Yeah, I thought, oh God, is there like a pipe burst or something? And it was coming from right outside my patio, outside my apartment. And I just went straight to the door, looked outside the door, the little door viewfinder thing. And there was this lady peeing on my door.
Oh my God.
I would say that I am shocked and horrified, but also this is Vegas.
And this is, yeah.
yeah.
And it was this homeless lady, and I opened the door, and I was,
Were you sure you wanted to open the door that she was
So I-
peeing on?
I didn't know she was peeing on the door at first. So I opened the door, and I realized she was peeing.
oh, jeez.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What
Wow.
did you do?
It
Like,
was-
did you say
I-
something to her? Or
To
like-
be honest, I couldn't stop laughing. And I was like, get out of here. It was
my
so disgusting, but it was so
goodness. It's
funny
crazy.
too. And
Really?
yeah, I mean, I'm not going to beat up a woman, am I? But that was, yeah.
Yeah, I guess you
Crazy
can write a
story.
book, about living in Vegas if you live
Yeah.
there long enough.
You see a lot of funny stuff, yeah.
I believe.
I'm kind of curious now,
Yeah.
to go there to check if there are actually so many people
It's
like
like a
that.
human safari.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially after the sun goes down,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you see a
things
lot.
you see.
Oh my God.
All right. I also have a question. Well, I think it's mostly, no, actually it's both to both of you. But what about food? So was there anything surprising or did you have to, did you have any difficulty, getting used to the local food?
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. So when I first came to Indonesia, actually, I wasn't used to eating spicy food. I mean, like most Russians don't usually eat a lot of spicy food.
Yep.
So, and every dish was like extremely spicy to me. I couldn't eat anything, seriously.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but eventually I got used to it. And now I like
Seriously,
like
you can
spicy,
get
yeah.
used to
yeah,
spicy
exactly.
food?
Maybe, I don't know, you burn out
Yeah.
some kind of
You burn out.
Taste buds just so you don't have them
Exactly,
anymore by
probably.
the end of the month.
Yeah, but now I love spicy, really. So it's like, and in China it was different. They also like spicy food, but I was used to that at that time already. But they add a lot of chemicals to food. So and every time I ate anything, like for example, I ordered even like some kind of soup, and still I felt bad after that. So I could have stomach ache, I could have, I don't know, heartburn, I could have,
Just like plastic soup.
something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, they still add a lot of like seafood there, a lot of vegetables, but still, I don't know,
I
maybe
think-
it was just my
I
reaction.
think it's called
I don't know.
MSG, monosodium glutamate, something
it's
like
to
that.
To make the
Yeah.
taste more intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
I've heard about
mean,
this.
we
Yeah.
have this sodium glutamate
Yeah,
added
yeah,
to a
yeah,
lot
yeah.
of things here as well, but maybe not to
in
that
such amounts.
extent.
Yeah.
Or
probably.
maybe it has some kind of a different structure. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so
Aw.
I still ate in the cafes, but I prefer to cook something on my own,
Yeah.
like, some soups, just broccoli, something like that.
So did you mostly cook something that you're familiar with then?
In the end of like my time there, I was just cooking on my own myself.
What about you and your time in Russia and Italy?
Well, so far all I've eaten is pelmeni every day.
Seriously?
No, I love pelmeni. I
Aw.
can't. It's kind of hard to get sick of them. They're great.
they're
I
really
love them.
good.
What else? Pelmeni.
It's funny how you come to Russia and all the food that people like, I mean, we Russians like a lot, well, unless you're a vegetarian, is you say to people, it's pelmeni. What is it? Oh, it's, dough and meat inside. Then you have manты. What is it? Oh, it's dough and meat inside. And then we have
A little dough,
samsa,
a little meat.
чебурек,
Yeah.
what else? Pilash. And everything is
but they're
dough and
different.
meat.
They're
Well,
still
you can't
different.
mess up with, you can't do anything wrong with dough and meat.
Yeah, they're still delicious.
Well, it's kind of like eggs and bread in America and England. So
probably.
there's so many different combinations of
Yeah.
So when you were in Russia, did you cook or did you go out and eat?
Are you talking about when I was in Krasnodar previously?
Well, yes. Well, and now.
Yeah, now. I mean, to be honest, now I've been out to a few places. I went to, it was mainly Asian food I've tried here. The first time I was in Russia, that was, I ate actually a lot of, I think it was like Muslim cuisine, because Krasnodar is not too far from the Caucasus, and they have a lot of halal dishes around there.
Yeah, right.
So a lot of things in wraps, a lot of things in, a lot of chicken and rice. That was actually really good. So I had a lot of good chicken and rice. Now it's just pelmeni. Wake up pelmeni, sleep pelmeni.
Wow.
But I'm sure you've tasted borscht, right?
Yeah, borscht. I love borscht,
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Kind of takes too long to cook, though. Sometimes
It
so
does
you're
take a while,
I
yeah.
just cooked some in Thailand. I love Thai food. It's really good. Like, seriously, I just love it. So, but sometimes you miss Russian food, obviously. And I just bought some beetroot, some meat, and I just cooked some. So then invited some Russian friends over, and we just enjoyed it so much.
I remember when I was in the US for the first year, I was on a program, Fulbright, so I got a Fulbright grant. So 35 of us were in different states teaching Russian as a foreign language. And the thing is that so many other people were missing Russian food. They're like, guys, I miss buckwheat, I miss pelmeni, things like that.
Exactly.
And they asked me,
I
like,
know.
don't you miss Russian food? And I said, look, I live in Massachusetts where there are so many Russians, and I have 4 Russian stores within a 50-mile radius. So whenever I wanted some Russian food, I would just go there, buy whatever I needed, because you can find everything in there, even pastry. So, the honey cake, it's there. Pelmeni, what kind of a meat do you want inside? So like 15 different varieties. So I never had a problem with that.
Yeah, the same in Scotland. So
In Scotland?
they're not Russian shops, but they're like
Eastern
they're
European.
Polish shops or Serbian shops or something.
Well,
like that.
our Eastern European brothers and sisters have
Yes, definitely.
done it for us.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, that's so interesting. But I remember, again, when I was cooking, I was surprised by the variety of vegetables in there. I was like, what is that? I have never cooked this. I have never eaten this. And then there were also a couple of Indian shops in the neighborhood. So I went there and there were so many vegetables and fruits that I had never heard of before. So I love this experience.
Yeah, I love
Really.
Indian food. In London, there's
yeah.
a lot of great Indian food because it's a
Same in
huge,
Scotland.
and
In
Scotland,
Edinburgh at least, yeah.
There's a huge,
Same in the US. But, they say that there is Indian food and then there is white Indian food, as they call it.
yeah, definitely.
So just a little bit different. Same goes with Thai and Chinese food.
Yeah,
But yeah.
It's hard to find really good Thai food, even in Novosibirsk, although it's possible, of course.
So, and what about your free time? So was it the way that you spend your free time, was it any different from how you usually would, spend it in your country?
I think not in China, in Thailand, it was different in terms of I was traveling a lot. So almost every weekend we're going somewhere to see, yeah. Beautiful
Am I jealous?
nature.
No. Am I lying? Yes. Go on.
Yeah, it's beautiful views, beautiful scenery. Oh my God, I miss it so much. Also the weather, the climate, it's my favorite, I think, really. So yeah, in China it was a bit different because I lived in a small city and there weren't like so many foreigners there.
Mm-hmm.
So like once a week on Saturday, usually on Sunday. So we gathered together in a club or in a bar, just
Mhm.
spend time together. So something
Mhm.
like that. Lots of drinking usually because again a lot of pressure and people just had to vent.
They needed
you
to
know.
de-stress.
Exactly.
Mhm. Ben, what about you?
Well, in London, I usually go on my bike a lot. Me and my
Mhm.
mates always go out on our bikes and we ride to all sorts of places. Here in Novosibirsk, it's a little tough.
Now,
now, yeah, it's a
especially.
little
Well,
tough.
wait,
but
wait till it's summer.
yeah,
Actually, it's
I
a
want to
little
get
bit.
a bike. I want to get a fat bike. It's one those bikes with the really
Oh,
fat
yeah.
tires. I would
Mhm.
love to get because then you can ride it in the winter too.
Mhm.
I'd love to do that. But I wonder what it's like riding on the roads here if the drivers are used to giving way to cyclists or not.
No,
Not really.
it's a
yeah.
little. So that's why it's a little bit dangerous here.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
So, but yeah, I know some people who actually go everywhere by bike, but they usually try to stay away from the road.
Yeah.
Because the drivers, I do not know if you have noticed, but drivers in Novosibirsk are pretty aggressive.
Mhm.
So, and I remember before coming back to Russia, I said, "Oh, I need to get a driver's license, so I'm going to do that in Russia." I came back, I finally, started to see how aggressive everyone
Yep.
is, and I said, "Nope, no, never in here." Because
Yeah.
yeah,
Just
I
a
do
quick
not
question. Is it legal to ride your bicycle on the pavement here in Russia? Are you allowed to do that by law?
Yes, but you need to be careful because there are a lot of people.
course, yeah.
But yes, it's absolutely.
Because in the
Absolutely,
UK, you're
yeah,
not allowed
I
to
think.
do that on
Oh,
most,
aren't
The
yeah, on most
special lanes,
pavements.
yeah,
Yeah, so
usually.
you have
Well,
your,
since we don't have bike lanes in here, so
Mhm.
where else? It's
Yeah.
either the road, which is dangerous, or the pavement. So
Yeah.
one of those two. All right. And I have one last
Uh-huh.
topic to talk about, which is culture shock. We've kind of mentioned it in a
Yeah.
way. So
Yeah, we did.
would you say that you had, well, I guess we all had a culture shock, to some extent. But what was it like for you and how did you deal with it? How did you go through it?
Okay, yeah, I think in Indonesia, like, it wasn't really culture shock, but it was a bit unpleasant when, you walk down the street and on every corner, people just cry to you, bule, which means like foreigner or outlander
Yeah.
or stranger. And it's like, it's really annoying.
Was it more in a good way, like that they shouted that, or was it like an insult?
It wasn't really an insult, but it was kind of like, so they've noticed you and they like pay
Oh my
attention
God,
to me as
I
well.
bet you get
yeah.
tired of this.
Exactly, yeah. Like, for example, I was going to work like every day. So usually, actually, my assistant, I had an assistant there, kind of manager, I could say. Yeah.
Ooh, fancy.
The same as in China, actually, but in Indonesia, they paid much more attention to me and to like actually taking me places and so on. So yeah, and there it was like, you go to work and at least 4 or 5 people yell to you, bule.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's like, oh my God. And also they like, all of them want to take pictures with you. My colleagues, people in the streets, like everywhere, they just want to take pictures with
It must
you.
be
because-
overwhelming, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So you can't like feel at ease, at any times.
Yeah.
It's
Well, I've heard people who go to India, I mean, there's a lot of beggars out
the
there
same. Yeah.
and people get followed by like crowds of
Yeah.
beggars.
And asked for money.
yeah,
Yeah,
and obviously you want to help people, but at the same time, you can't help everyone.
absolutely.
And you just
absolutely.
have,
Yeah. I mean, in Indonesia, they don't actually ask for money. They pay attention to you. Lots of attention. So,
Yeah.
yeah. And oh yeah.
Yeah, no, go on.
No, it was just about China, but I've already talked about it. Yeah, so again, there is like this huge Chinese firewall. Yeah, so you don't get to use Instagram, Facebook, Google even.
All
Exactly.
right.
Exactly.
Did you have a VPN when you went out there?
Yeah, I knew about it and I downloaded like, 4 or 5 VPNs.
So you were
But-
prepared.
Yeah, but only one worked. So,
Oh
and
my goodness.
I remember I just landed in China and I was trying to, text my parents, text my friends that I'm in China, everything is good. And I was trying to use WhatsApp and I used VPN and I tried 4 of them. None of them worked.
Oh.
So just one worked and I was like, thank God.
Oh
Okay,
my
but it was
goodness. It must
pretty
have been so
stressful.
stressful.
Yeah. And all the time again, you feel kind of isolated. So because you don't get to communicate with your friends a lot. And again, this VPN, which worked for me. So it didn't work all the time. So it worked like, I don't know, in the morning, in the afternoon sometimes. But in the evening, it didn't really work a lot.
So what, if we talk about Asia for a second, so what tips would you give to someone who's going to teach English there? So how to deal with the culture shock, how to go through this?
I mean, if you go to Thailand, it's not a lot of culture shock. Yeah, people are really nice, people are friendly. So food is pretty good and familiar because people like eat Thai food in Russia a lot. So Indonesia as well, I think it's fine. But China, yeah. So you need to prepare, again, this VPN thing. So probably lots of books for you to, to kill time because you will get a lot of free time and you probably won't have a lot of friends at first. So yeah, and you must have some hobbies, again, to kill time. So yeah.
Ben, what about you? Have you ever had a culture shock?
Well, of course, it's a shock coming to. Russia is a very different place
It
to most
is.
places, but I really wanted to be here in the first place. So even though things are very different here, it's still I'm fascinated by everything and how everything works. Before I arrived here, I didn't know if I was going to have to find an apartment on my own. Well, obviously, I have great assistance with the school, the Big Apple school, and their assistance has really helped a lot. So I don't have to dive straight into the deep end. So I don't have to deal with a landlord or anything like that. So that's great. But if I hadn't had chosen to work at the Big Apple school and chosen instead to work freelance, that might be a little too overwhelming because I can say a few words in Russian, I can get by in Russian, but I can't speak it to such a level where you can really negotiate things with a landlord, etc. So it does depend on your workplace and what you're doing, if you already have a previously organized set of circumstances or not. So yeah, it all depends.
All right. Do you have any tips for those who are coming to Russia?
For those coming to Russia, well, of course, dress warm. That goes without saying.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
It goes without saying. Don't be too worried. It's not as scary as people make it out to be. People are actually quite friendly. I mean, obviously, people don't smile quite as much as they do in the West, but people are actually really friendly, I've found. So don't worry too much. That's what I would say.
Yeah, don't worry too much without a reason to.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I had an interesting experience with the culture shock. So the thing is that before we set off to the US, we had a pre-departure orientation where we were told the following thing. Our supervisor said, I know some of you have been to the US. I know you think, oh, I speak the language, I won't have any problem. But trust me, every single one of you is going to have a culture shock. And we said, come on, not us, not me. And I was the same dumb person who thought that. And I came to the US and everything was marvelous. I could understand everyone. I didn't have any kind of a language barrier. So what can be the problem? But then 2 or 3 months in, the culture shock started to kick in. I do not know what was the reason. Maybe it was everything at once. The fact that I didn't have friends. Everyone was friendly, but not friends. And actually, this is the first time I'm telling this story. Wow. And the thing is that I got into a relationship. I got started to dissolve in it, because I didn't have anyone else. And in the end, it all just went, my mental health went down the hill with the culture shock because of the culture shock. So, and I had to deal with the consequences because I didn't get help at first for more than a year. So I had to go into therapy to deal with that. And I do not know what that was. Maybe that all started because of not having friends, feeling lonely, having a different job. Because let's say here in Russia, I was teaching English. I was responsible for the classroom. I was, the main person in the classroom, basically. In there, you have a different job. You are just an assistant. And then I had to switch from teaching English, which I had been doing for 5 years by that time, to teaching Russian, which I had no experience in. So I think that all just, got combined. So Yeah, and I remember after that when I was at a conference, a Fulbright conference, I said to people, if you're going to the US to work, to teach especially as a Fulbrighter, and I guess that works with any other profession, the main thing for you to remember is never be afraid to ask for help. So if you start to realize that you get anxious or depressed or something, please reach out. So don't be dumb like me. So yeah. All right.
Thank you for sharing. Well,
And I have a question to our listeners now. So if there is a country that you really want to go to work or to live, please let us know in the comments section. And if you have had such an experience, also please share. We would like to hear your stories as well and to talk a little bit about it, because it's always a fun topic to talk about. Well, all right. And that was the Big Apple School podcast. And today we discussed living and working in different countries. We talked about all different aspects of it, such as difficulties, culture shock, food, hobbies, free time, finding an apartment, crazy stories, and our experience with hospitals and 911 in my case. Well, thank you for listening. And remember, if you struggle to understand our conversation, you're always welcome to our website, which is bigappleschool.com/podcast, where you can find full scripts of each episode so you can read it while listening. Cool, right? Also, if you want to get more content which will help you learn English, you can follow us on the social media such as Instagram, VK, YouTube, Telegram, and so on. Just search our name, which is again, Big Apple School. So that was Katja, and my guests for today were
Benjamin.
and
Natalie.
stay tuned, and we'll see you around.